Thank you. All right, are you happy that your question has been addressed by these parties?
I am happy. I really enjoyed the center stage, but the gentleman behind me, Mr. Charles LeBlanc, I think is really excited for the microphone, so I'll turn it over to
Thank you
Dan.
for your question. Charles, don't forget, it's 2 minutes.
Don't worry, I'll be short. My name is Charles LeBlanc. I think I live in downtown area, 145 Westmoreland. And to save some time, you don't have to ask me if my question has been answered, because if not, I'll see you after the meeting. My question is very simple. There's just 3 parts. I'll make it right short. There's a lot of, I wasn't going to take the mic, but there's a lot of people that's too ashamed to talk to the candidates or the local politician. They think that they don't think they have a voice. Number one, why don't we have a provincial jail here in Fredericton? We could build a new building for the retired politician to be appointed as judge. They just cross the street from the legislator, and the Centennial building is right there. Number two, why do we not speak up on prisoners forced to walk home and giving their sentence here in Fredericton? They're sent to Miramichi, the youth are sent to Miramichi, the women Miramichi and St. John. They give them a Google map and say, walk home in the storm. And number three, people are dying behind bars like Tyler Sweeney and Caroline Warnock that was begging for her life in Miramichi. No coroner inquest, no nothing. So what's your opinion on that?
Okay, thank you for your question.
Thank you for that, Charles, and definitely appreciate your passion, because those are some pretty good topics. I remember when there was a jail here in Fredericton, and that was a science museum. I'm not sure if there would be any enhanced efficiencies to having being able to incarcerate people right here in the municipality or not, but certainly if there was efficiencies, either fiscal efficiencies or just delivery of service, certainly it'd be worth considering. As far as prisoners have to walk home, no, that doesn't sound right. I mean, this is grief. I don't know what we could do to address that, but those are that's a good issue, Charles. I mean, these are things that people are not talking about. So I congratulate you for bringing those up. And in terms of treatment of prisoners with these things, coroner's inquest, now that's something I do feel really passionately about. Because I remember the Ashley Smith case very, very well. And that was a case where someone was just ignored. And these people who are incarcerated, they are for reasons, but they're still humans. There are people with mental illness who are trapped in a cycle. There are people with addiction problems. There are people who just never had the choice between a right decision and a wrong decision. So we need to make sure that when we are incarcerating people and we are putting people in these kind of circumstances of jail, that we're doing it humanely, because Canada is a civilized country and we need to reflect that in all our actions. Thank you for bringing this up, Charles. Merci beaucoup.
Charles, you brought up something I care very strongly about. I'd say, to broadly define what I think about prison, is I'm a prison abolitionist. I don't think this is a goal we can meet immediately, but I feel like prison is a place where people get worse, they don't get better. It is one of the cruelest institutions in our society, and we need to find solutions. I've been in prisons, not as a lawyer. I've been in the Baffin Correctional Center in Iqaluit. It is one of the worst prisons in our country. When I worked for the Ontario Ombudsman's office, we were one of the only phone lines that people in provincial prisons could phone to us. And I heard about their experience with undercaloried food, with violence from prison guards, and prison guards who I also understand work in dangerous conditions because of these corrosive institutions. I think we need to find more ways of keeping people in the community. So we don't have to truck people around the province to these industrialized facilities. Certainly, I'm aware of the stories you're talking about of people just being chucked out of institutions in Miramichi, forced to walk home. In my law practice, I have people who are arrested wrongly based on incorrect information from our justice system and were brought to Miramichi and then left to muster their minimal resources to try to get home. I don't agree with you. I agree with you so much that this needs to be a bigger priority in our system. We need to look at reducing incarceration. We need to look at why we are criminalizing sex work and putting more of the most vulnerable people in our society into this kind of orbit of criminalization. Thank you so much, Charles.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the question, Charles. 3 questions. How did you get that? I don't know, but you got it. First question. A jail in Fredericton. Well, it seems like a good idea. What I would do is look at, well, why did they not replace the jail when they shut it down in Fredericton? And see what the potential is for putting one back. It's not a bad idea when you look at the distribution of jails around the province. Secondly, in terms of transportation for people when they're released from jail, absolutely, we've got sheriff's vans running the roads in this province all the time between courthouses and the different jails, and people should be able to be transported back to their community in a sheriff's van rather than being let out on their own to fend for themselves. Some folks don't even have the real capacity to fend for themselves when they get out of jail because we're incarcerating people who are mentally ill. That's their only crime, and it's not a crime. So it's insanity that we need to address mental illness in a fundamental way here. We have a very rudimentary system for mental health care in this province. We would fix that by doubling the budget of the mental health care system. Yes, it's going to cost more money, but we've got to do it. We've got to tackle mental health and addictions in this province, and that's going to cost some more money. So we're committed to that. Finally, as far as people dying in jail, we don't use the issue of the tool of coroner's inquest very much in this province. And we need to use coroner's inquests for unexplained deaths every time, including those unexplained deaths in jail. Obviously, if it's clear someone died of a natural cause, a heart attack, or whatever it is, that's one thing. But if it's an unexplained death, there needs to be a coroner's inquest, and it needs to be public, and the results and recommendations need to be made public.
Thank you for the question, Charles. I agree with a few of the things that actually have been said already. So I'm with Chris around the need to reduce the amount of prisons and incarceration that we do in New Brunswick, because I don't think that it is the place where we help improve things and make society better or safer. What I think we actually need is better collaboration between all the different pieces of the system that are at play, because there are pieces that aren't connected. So if you look at what the RCMP is doing, what the public safety officers are doing, the police, the coroner's office, the sheriffs, the people who are working in mental health, the people who are looking at transitional housing and homelessness, there's a whole bunch of pieces here that don't connect currently and end up with people on a cold highway outside of the Miramichi when they shouldn't be, which also highlights a problem that I think David touched on, which is a lack of transportation solutions here in this province. We do not have great ways to move people around the province, period, regardless of whether there's a sheriff's van available, and a transportation solution for the province that helps people get from our less populated areas to our more populated areas to other less populated areas would really help us with our modernization of how we deliver services here. To your question specifically, so as for a jail in Fredericton, I don't know enough about why there isn't one now to be able to give you a firm answer of whether there should or shouldn't be one tomorrow, but my instinct is that we shouldn't, because I haven't heard a demand for more jail cells. And in terms of how we address the prisoners that were unjustly left on the side of the road, I think the Ombud, Charles Murray, had some great points around this when he was looking into it because of the complaints that came to his office. So Charles and the Ombud's office are a great tool to get some insight and to manage the public conversation around how we fix specific problems like that and make sure that the Sheriff's Office, the RCMP, the people responsible for public safety, the people responsible for service delivery to prisoners are all at the table finding the solutions that will work so that we don't see that ever happen again.
Thank you. Next question? I can answer that. I'm sorry, Donnie. I apologize.
Charles, that's a great topic. My background is criminology. I taught criminology at St. Thomas University, but I also want to make a point that 90% of a youth that's in a facility has a parent that's an alcoholic. And what I did as part of my doctoral thesis is I designed a program for educators, social workers, about the risk factors that a youth at risk faces. And I brought in the RCMP, I brought in public safety, I brought in addiction services, I brought in all the experts to help design that program, to put a safety net in place to help youth at risk. Because if the youth at risk are not caught and protected, then they're going to be the adults that are locked in our jails. And I am 100% behind having a provincial jail in Fredericton. I have people in this room I know for a fact have a daughter-in-law that was shipped off to the Miramichi, had a drug problem, and was denied her medication. I mean, this is where you end up with people having seizures and possible death. I think that all of the facilities need to have cameras in them, and I think that the families and loved ones of anyone that dies in a facility, in a prison, even a minimum security, should have access to that camera. They should have all the details of what happened to their loved one. And to deny them is a form of abuse, and to leave someone outside of a prison and find their own way home is it's terrible. It's an abuse, and we all should fight for every single person to get them out of the prisons, but to at least get them home after they come out of jail. We don't know where they came from, and we shouldn't be judging that.
Thank you, Donnie. Okay, next question, please.